This is the Untold Italy Travel Podcast, and you are listening to episode number 190.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week your host, Katie Clark, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Ciao friends, buongiorno. I hope you're all well and bringing little pieces of Italy into your life every day, whether that be some fun Italian music, a cheeky biscotti, or a wonderful Italian movie, and of course, our Untold Italy podcast. Today we have a treat for you because we're delving into one of Italy's lesser-known cities, and let me tell you, these are the ones that I love the best. There's something about these smaller cities that encapsulate everything I love about the country, the local culture and rituals, beautiful architecture, delicious food and wine, and a slower pace of life. Typically, these places are hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. And today we're visiting Vicenza in the Veneto region, a city that fits that bill nicely. Joining us is Elisabetta Fagiana from Exploro and Unexpected Italy to share all the wonderful experiences Vicenza has to offer. Benvenuta Elisabetta, ciao and welcome on to the Untold Italy podcast.
Grazie Katie, hello everyone, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely to have you join us, and I'm really excited to chat about beautiful Vicenza. But before we dive in, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience and telling them about what you do and how you came to be chatting with me about Vicenza?
I'm Elisabetta Fagiana, and I'm the CEO of Unexpected Italy. So as a brief background, I am from Vicenza originally. That's where I was born and I grew up. But I've got quite an international background. I've lived in between Milan, London, Dubai, and Vicenza, of course. And after setting up first Unexpected London, then Unexpected Italy, which is a national network of local independent businesses from where you can stay, you can eat, and experiences you can do, we were contacted by the Exploro team. Exploro is a specific project on Vicenza, which is a platform that brings together all the unique experiences that you can do in Vicenza, which is a very underrated but amazing and beautiful and very elegant city. The Cinderella in Veneto, because of course there are Venice and Verona that are the most touristy cities, and Vicenza is often overlooked. But there is so much to visit and so this is the first platform that really brings together all local guides, experiences, and things you can do. And so, given our background, we've been involved in the project to find unexpected things that you can do, unexpected as well, because even the expected things in Vicenza are unexpected. So
that's so true. Like, I am a big fan of the Veneto region, and I'm sorry to say I have not been to Vicenza. And when I started researching for our talk, I was like, oh my goodness, this is really sad. I need to go there because I feel like Vicenza it's quite a big city, right?
Well, the city itself is not very big. It's like 100,000 inhabitants. But the area, because of course in Italy we got the provinces, which is a bit difficult concept often for foreigners to understand. But within Vicenza, there's not just Vicenza as a city, but there is a whole area that comprises many gorgeous hilltop town villages like Marostica, the city of chess, where every 2 years they've got this a live chess match in the center of Marostica with two castles, one at the top, one at the bottom, connected, and it's beautiful. You've got Bassano, that is where Grappa is originally from, where is the famous iconic Bassano Bridge, and it's an incredible town. It's really lively. You have a lot of fun. And it's difficult to get out of Bassano completely sober because there's festive atmosphere wherever you go. That it's a really, really fun place to be. There is Asiago, that is a mountain resort. It's beautiful. You can trek, you can cycle, you can do a lot. There is the Brenta River where you can do kayak. And of course there is Vicenza, the city of Palladio, with all its beautiful villas. Vicenza is actually a UNESCO heritage site because it's got 24 Palladian monuments and 26 Palladian villas. All around the territory, there are hundreds and hundreds of Venetian villas that are inspired by Palladio. And in many of them, the original families still live in there. So you can go and stay there, meet the families, meet these noble people that are the most humble people and have a really unique and elegant and refined experience away from the tourists. And the good thing about Vicenza is only 45 minutes from Venice, 45 minutes from Lake Garda, 40 minutes from Verona. So it's a very good place to actually stay to visit the whole of the region, and half an hour from Padua. So yeah, there is a lot to do in Vicenza.
It's in the perfect spot, really. I mean, like, I'm just going to let you know, my first place I ever went to in Italy was Maltesine in Lake Garda. And then I went to Verona. I feel like Vicenza might be calling my name because when you're talking about it, I'm like, ooh, because I think these smaller cities have this charm that people are really looking for, because you have the size where there's lots of things to do and see, and you've got a buzz where there's people coming and going and doing their daily lives, and there's restaurants, and these places are the ones where I just fall in love with Italy all over and over again. And I'm really excited to learn so much more. So maybe if we back it up a bit, because Palladium is a very famous word in London, as we both know, having both lived there. But maybe some of our listeners don't know so much about this famous architect from Italy.
Yeah, so Palladio is actually one of the greatest architects that have ever existed. So especially for Americans, just something to start with, the White House without Palladio wouldn't exist, because the White House is inspired by La Rotonda, that is Palladio's most famous villa, that is just 5 minutes drive outside of Vicenza, and it's got exactly the same shape. And as you said, even in London, there is so much inspired by Palladio. All the most famous architects here, from like Christopher Wren, for example, is inspired by Palladio, and Oxmoor and many more. And he was born in Vicenza. He died in around 1585. There is a bit of a mystery about his death. In fact, on Explorer, you can find a tour about how did he die, because we don't know how he actually died. But the last thing he created was the Olympic Theatre in Vicenza, which is the most ancient indoor theatre in the world. And it's 3D, it's just amazing. And so you actually can walk in the theatre, and there are lots of different streets on the stage. And it's just an amazing theatre. And that's the last one he did. And he died before it was actually finished, so he didn't see it finished. But in Vicenza is city of Palladian, so the architecture all over. So anybody who loves architecture, they can't come to Italy and not see Vicenza, because it's a real hidden gem, and it is the city of one of the greatest architects of history.
Did he teach himself, or where was he educated to build this impressive body of work?
He studied from some great local architects in the area, but he was a lot even self-taught, and a lot of genius going on with him. And he was also working with other architects, like Scamozzi is one that very few people know about, but if you go around Vicenza, there is a lot about it. Another very famous architect is Scarpa. It's quite an incredible spot for architecture.
And so I'm wondering what was driving this investment in architecture, because, you know, obviously in close by in Venice, you have all the trade and a lot of money coming in from trade all over the world. What was happening in Vicenza that they could build these amazing villas?
Vicenza is a bit the second Venice, let's say. Lots of nobles from Venice would come and create villas in Vicenza. So, for example, Villa Valmarana in Ani, that is a beautiful villa right next door to La Rotonda, that is completely frescoed by Tiepolo, that is a Renaissance artist, one of the greatest of all times, again. And it's completely frescoed. It's still run by the same Valmarana family who originally created it. So there were all these noble families that would have second house inland away from Venice. And so there still is. Vicenza is it's a very rich area. And that is, I think, is part of the reason why it's not very touristy, because they're not that sort of interested in tourism because it's a city of gold, it's a city of leather, of marble, so the industry is very, very rich, let's say. But this makes it a very interesting sort of area and spot. But yeah, it originates for this reason because many noble families, especially from Venice, would come there, and so they would invest in these incredible architects to build their houses and villas.
So they summer in Vicenza. I can understand that. I mean, it would get very, very hot on the lagoon, and it does still today. So no wonder they want that. And, you can't really get a lot of space in Venice, no matter how hard you try. So I'm sure you get a lot more space out in Vicenza as well. So obviously with like so many beautiful buildings that are very ornate, you need a lot of artisans, and you mentioned that there are goldsmiths and marble and leather, yeah.
I actually come from Arzignano, which is the European capital of leather, which is within Vicenza, the Vicenza province, and so it is the city of leather.
Oh, and it still continues to this day, which I think that's a very charming thing about Italy, is that there are people that continue these traditions and these crafts, and even, younger people, which I think this is very special, and people have very strong pride about that in a culture where, everyone's online buying cheap stuff from Zara. This is taking the time to make something special is really something to be cherished, I think. And that's why I always come home with a massive bag full of stuff from Italy. I always have to buy another suitcase because I've always bought things that have been specially handmade.
Well done, well done. Well, Vicenza's been really good in turning local artisan craftsmanship into an industry because, yes, you find local artisans, but I mean, the leather industry is very big. Likewise, marble and likewise gold. So they have turned it into an industry, but it's still family-run businesses. So you find lots of young people working there. We are always looking for those local workshops where you can see craftsmen at work, and there are some really, really nice ones from lithographers to craftsmen that work copper right in the centre of Vicenza, to, of course, anything to do with textile and fashion, who still make carpets, ladies there making carpets by hand. You still find these hidden gems that personally I just love because it's like stepping into a world of passion and expertise and knowledge that it's very rare to find. Luckily, Italy, as you were saying, 95% of Italian businesses are still family run. So luckily, Italy, compared to many other countries, is managing to keep all these local gems that we need to get together and really start promoting them and supporting them, otherwise they will disappear. And that's a big thing of what we want to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how some countries, and this includes my own, is that, we have a lot of talents and it's maybe not until someone from abroad recognises them and sees them as valuable that we recognise them ourselves. So as visitors, if we can choose to go and see these places, and then people sort of take notice and say, oh wow, this is interesting to other people, because Italy itself has a very strong tradition of obviously very high-end luxury brands that do a very, very good job. But I think it's that next level down, that's where you get some of the most beautiful things, ceramics and leather, and I'm sure they make shoes and bags in Vicenza.
Especially connected to the leather. Vicenza is even more for cars and airplanes and all of that. So that's sort of the next level. But you just mentioned ceramics. In Vicenza, there is Nove, that is a very little town near Bassano, and it's the city of ceramics. And there are still 250 manufacturers. And you still see ceramists at work, and you see these incredible, some de-use factories, like with ovens that are like 3 floors ovens where they used to cook ceramics. But you still see some incredible ceramists at work. The key for me is those artisans that manage to preserve the tradition but innovate it. And so you see some of these artisans that really create really modern things but using ancient techniques, which is where it should be going, is to appeal to a younger audience that appreciate these things.
Yeah, you've touched on something that I'm really passionate about too. And I think, Italy is, we do have this strong sense of tradition, but I think sometimes people miss that it's a very modern country. And I guess what you're saying is Vicenza is really the epitome of that. You have people working on these beautiful creations with modern sensibilities, but you've got also this amazing technique. And I think if you look at some of these, as you mentioned, the car brands and aeronautics and things like that, I think a lot of people don't know that Italy is like a real driving force behind that. And I'm very passionate to get people to see different sides of Italy. So I love Milan, for example, because it's a fun, modern city.
Yeah.
And I know some people go there and they go, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting. And it's like Italy is a lot more than just small, cute villages. It's like this amazing patchwork of exciting, modern things that are happening, plus ancient traditions. And that's why I love it. So I'm very intrigued. I think I need to change our whole itinerary and come to Vicenza right now. So if we were going to spend a few days there, Elisabetta, how would we go about it? What would we do?
What we always say, it really depends who you are as a traveller. Like for you said you like ceramics, so of course I would add in like Nove into your itinerary. But in general, let's say the must-see and the most, let's say, popular things are, of course, the in the centre of Vicenza, Vicenza is very easy to get to from both Venice and Verona by train. It's really, really easy and very cheap. And that's the other thing about Vicenza, is because it's not touristy, you don't get into tourist traps, and so it's you just pay as locals, and you eat as a local, and you can shop as a local and everything. And so you can get there by train. You can easily walk to the centre, and there you have to see the Olympic Theatre, which is the most ancient indoor theatre in the world. There is the Basilica Palladiana in the main Piazza dei Signori square, where there are two UNESCO heritage, one opposite the other. In the Basilica, there are two fun spots, because there is the first ever jazz club inside UNESCO heritage in Italy, which is called Barborsa, and there you can have from brunch to lunch to dinner, and even amazing cocktails. And in summer, if you're lucky, so you get there on Friday, Saturday or Sunday, the terrace of the Basilica is open, and you can have one of the most incredible aperitifs with the view all over Vicenza, these Palladian statues. It's a really dreamy spot to have your spritz, because of course spritz is from our area, and you get spritzes around Vicenza for as little as €3. And so that's when I go outside of my area, I never have spritz, because I don't accept paying the same for a spritz as a cocktail, because for me spritz is an aperitif, and that's why it's risky coming to Vicenza, especially like Bassano. There is another interesting, but I will talk about it later, another aperitif connected to the Grappa. So going back, to your question, so Basilica Palladiana, Olympic Theatre in Vicenza. Just outside Vicenza, there is Villa Valmarana in Ani, that is completely frescoed by Tiepolo, and it's the only example in the world where both father and son of Tiepolo painted these beautiful halls. Next door, there is Villa La Rotonda, and this is in Vicenza. So in Vicenza, you can go around. I would always recommend staying at least one night. If you want to see all of Vicenza, then you can go, of course, to Bassano, Marostica, which are two really, really gorgeous towns where you can have both culinary experiences and just culture in general. It's really good. For the more sporty ones, there is kayaking in the River Brenta, and Asiago for anybody who loves cycling, nature, walking. There are the malghe, that is like cattle farms, mountain huts. They're only open in summer, and there you can see all the cattle there. They're staying there from spring to autumn, and there is where they make milk, butter, cheese. The Asiago cheese is very famous, comes from there, and it's a very relaxing and out of this world experience. And Asiago is also, because of course we think about different targets in terms, for example, of accessible tourism. Asiago is a true excellence. Just to give you a little story that always touches my heart, in Asiago there is this local association of ski instructors, because there you can ski, And children that can't walk, disabled children on wheelchairs, they learn to ski. They can stand and ski thanks to this technique that they've developed. And so, and there is a lot about making the holidays fantastic for everyone and anyone. So that's why I always say it's a destination that embraces every heart. It's very special for that. So of course, it's not like Cortina, that it's like really steep slopes and everything, but for somebody who loves nature, relax, and skiing, but not at really difficult levels, that is the perfect destination.
That sounds like me. I am not very good at skiing. But Asiago cheese is so delicious. I love it. It's it's quite creamy, isn't it, the Asiago?
There are various types of Asiago. There's vecchio, stravecchio, so old, extra old, or young one. So it depends how old it is. So the older it gets, the more extra vecchio one, the extra old one. It's quite similar to Parmesan cheese when you have it. And then there are lots of other different cheeses in the area. There is Morlacco, there is Ubriaco del Grappa, there are many other cheeses.
Yes. I mean, I can imagine if you were coming from Venice and you probably, because we're inland, right? I think we didn't really mention that. We're actually inland from Venice. So, and it's on the river, right? Is that right?
Well, there is the river going through Bassano. Well, also in Vicenza, yes. It's right between Venice and Verona. So if you go from Venice to Verona, which is something that very often tourists do, Vicenza is right in the middle, and it's also 45 minutes from Lake Garda as well. So, but yeah, it is inland.
Everyone's probably got their head in their phone at that point. Big mistake. Get off the train. Right. So we talked about the cheese. Everyone's going to Italy for the food, right? And we've been educating our listeners on this podcast that it's not Italian food, it's regional food. So what are some of the regional dishes that we have in Vicenza that we should definitely try apart from the cheese?
So probably the most famous local dish is Baccalà alla Vicentina, which is stockfish. And it stays in water like for 3 days, and then you simmer it in milk. I'm not a cook or a chef, so I can't give you the exact recipe. There is actually the Confraternita del Baccalà, and actually a local association that is only for Baccalà, where you can find the best local restaurants where you can go and eat Baccalà alla Vicentina. So that is probably the most famous dish. But then, aside from that, and as I said, the cheese, this is soppressa, that is a very typical salami from the area that you can have either with polenta. Of course, we are in the north of Italy, and polenta is very popular. Or pan biscotto, that is a specific kind of bread that is baked twice, biscotto, cooked twice, and it's very hard and it's really nice you can preserve it for a long time, and it's quite typical. Like we've got one, a baker that just does that, just makes pan biscotto. And then based on the season when you are in Vicenza, so if you're like in spring, the white asparagus of Bassano that are incredible in the risotto, in pasta, or just asparagus because they're really thick, and you can have them with eggs. In June, July, there are the cherries in Marostica that are really big and nice and juicy. Then drink as well, if you're interested about.
Oh, yes, we need to know about the wine.
Vicenza, it's not many cities like Vicenza, 5 different areas for wine that produce 5 different kinds of wine. And so we have Thai, that is Thai Rosso and Thai Bianco, that is a specific wine from the area. Durello, that is a bit similar to Prosecco, but with specific grape from the Durello area. And then there is Breganze, the Breganze wine, that is a big area, and they produce wine there as well. There's a Recioto from Gambellara, that is a sweet wine. It's really, really nice. And then we cannot mention Grappa, that is especially, you can go and visit Nardini, that is the oldest distillery in Italy, and the oldest Grappa distillery in the world, because Grappa can only be from Italy. And the mezzo, there's another aperitif. Only Bassano you can find it, and Nardini. It's made locally from Nardini. And the best experience with Bassano is having a mezzo on the bridge, overlooking mountains and the river. I love it.
Mezzo, does that mean it has maybe some soda water or...
It's got soda water, Nardini Rosso, that is a liqueur specific for Nardini, rhubarb liqueur, and soda.
Oh no, I need to try this. This sounds amazing. I love rhubarb. Because the thing is that I think grappa, I find grappa a bit like, woo, that's a bit much for me. But if it's like, got a few little extras in it, like rhubarb, that sounds...
And there's tagliatelle as well, another Nardini liqueur that is not as strong as grappa. And it's called like tagliatelle, like the pasta. The first time they said, "Do you want a tagliatelle?" I said, "No, I've already eaten." They said, "No, it's liqueur."
It just sounds like it's a very elegant place, and I'm really wondering, with so many beautiful buildings, why the Instagrammers haven't discovered it yet, but we won't tell them. And are there some lovely hotels in the centre of town is it the sort of historic ones? Or?
Well, there are more than hotels. There are like B&Bs or flats where you can stay at. There are some hotels, but just outside of Vicenza, within very easy reach, there's some beautiful villas, and I think that is always very nice to stay at a noble villa, and for very reasonable price, to be honest. Now, seeing the prices that are everywhere, there are very reasonable prices. So yeah, you have a choice.
We like the historic, like a boutique style hotel, and it sounds like these villas are exactly the type of thing that we enjoy. And so if you were staying in one of those, would you need a car, or is it easy to get around by transport?
Well, if you stay in one of the ones in the centre, then of course you don't need a car, and you just stay in Vicenza. If you want to visit the whole area, then a car is much easier, because as it often happens in Italy, if you really want to see the unseen bits, the best thing is getting a car.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting conundrum that people have. I'm sure, these smaller cities, they're not that difficult to drive in. I do it myself. It's when you start getting into Rome and Naples when I go, nope, time out. I'm not going there.
No, driving in the north of Italy is completely different than driving in the south. I personally don't drive in Puglia, and I've got a Puglian husband, so I'm often there, and I let him drive. And he said in the north it's very easy to drive, and especially in Vicenza, not being very busy, it's very easy. And yeah, you don't need to be worried about driving in Vicenza, and you can discover so many more things, even local small like secret wineries. And I haven't mentioned that. Surprise, surprise, Vicenza has the original castles of Romeo and Juliet. Everyone goes to Verona to see the fake balcony that was built in 1935 just for tourists. And nobody comes to see the real castles that are. There is this story about this noble that was living in this beautiful villa overlooking these two castles on two different hills. And he wrote this novel about these two lovers living in these two different castles. And then Shakespeare read the novel and he wrote Romeo and Juliet. So the original castles that inspired Romeo and Juliet are in Montecchio Maggiore. In fact, Romeo's surname is Montecchi than in Italian, Montague in English. And Montecchio Maggiore is where the castles are. And you can visit them under those castles. This is for very few people, but there is a very secret wine cellar. It's only for private things, so not everybody can go there, but it's really, really nice. It's 300 meters of caves with wines, with the local, it's called spumante, but it's like champagne of the area. Really, really nice. That is something that I can assure you, not even locals know, because we've spoken to quite a few locals, because there are no signs outside, so it's a very hidden gem.
Oh, that sounds magical. I mean, that Shakespeare, he didn't even go to Italy, so he was just borrowing left, right, and centre. This Shakespeare, but if you go to Verona and you see, and everyone goes to the balcony, even if they don't want to, it's like I'm putting my hand up. But I mean, I think it is such a iconic story, and to see the place that inspired it would be so beautiful. And these stories that permeate, and then they just sort of snowball throughout history, and they get sort of adopted and changed. But sometimes it's nice to go back to the origin and see where it all was.
Hats off to Verona, has been great at doing marketing. And Romeo and Juliet, I mean, he's based in Verona. Shakespeare, if you read it, it is based in Verona, but there is no House of Juliet. But it was inspired by these two castles. And I always find it incredible that nobody those about them.
Yeah, I think in Italy, I mean, it's a challenge, isn't it? Because there are so many beautiful things and there's so many tasty things, and it really, what I've discovered over the years is that it comes down to how good the marketing is, and places like, Tuscany do an amazing job of their marketing, and I just feel maybe we need to be a little bit savvier and look beyond that, and it's harder in the internet age to do that, and I really appreciate you joining us to share this beautiful part of the world, because otherwise we don't know. How do we know? Because if you Google top 10 things to do in Italy, please don't do that, by the way. You're not going to find it. It'll see the same old places that everyone's going to, and we know, and everyone's listening on the podcast knows that we can find some amazing, amazing places to go to that, will just inspire you, and you didn't even know that you were going to be inspired in that way. Elisabetta, is there anything else you'd like to share about beautiful Vicenza with us?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I spoke about Nova, the city of ceramics. I spoke about Bassano. And if you love ceramics in Bassano, there is another hidden gem. An insurance company turned into a ceramic museum.
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, there is one of the most beautiful libraries in the world, according to the New York Times. Independent libraries in the world, according to the New York Times, in Bassano. It's called Palazzo Roberti. And another unique local excellence is Tassotti, that is a paper printing company, and it's really fascinating. Run again by father and daughter, and it's beautiful. So yeah, there is a lot to discover behind, because even in Bassano, people that go, they see the river and the bridge, and they think that they have a spritz or a mezzo, which are must there, but they don't really go beyond that to do. And I am personally very in love with Bassano. It is a place where I could actually think of moving to.
You seem like someone who's always getting itchy feet. So that sounds like a big statement.
It's difficult to decide where to settle, because lots of people ask us, where will you settle after this 5-year journey? I said, I have no idea. I always thought Milan, because I really like Milan, but it depends what you look after. But Veneto's got a very good cost of living. Sort of, Milan is really expensive. Instead, Veneto, you can get a lot for your money.
Oh, well, it does sound like it has it all. Romeo and Juliet, Renaissance palaces, delicious cheese, €3 Aperol spritzers. I mean, and on a basilica as well. That sounds very intriguing. I think, if it's under an hour by train from Venice, you don't need to be too adventurous to try that. You can go on a day trip if you want to. And you know what? I'm just going to get out the map and see how I can wiggle this into... My husband will be like, what are you doing again? But this sounds absolutely beautiful. Elisabetta, thank you so much for sharing your hometown and with us today. And I'm sure our listeners would love to know a little bit more about Vicenza and the work you're doing to promote the city. How can they stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can visit the website explorer.it, and so there they can see all the various experiences that they can do. And of course, if they want to see other things about Italy, we are Unexpected Italy. But specifically on Vicenza for experiences, explorer.it. And on all social media as well. So from Instagram to Facebook, you can find us there.
Yeah, and of course, we will share the links for everyone on our website so everyone can have access to that and just start dreaming. I tell you what, you just get on Instagram or get on Google and have a little look on the images there, and you'll be like, why was this hiding in plain sight? That's what I was thinking. Grazie, Elisabetta. Thank you so much for joining us on Untold Italy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So everyone, a challenge for you. Report back if you visit Vicenza and let me know what you loved about this beautiful city. I have busily been trying to find a spot for it in our current itinerary because I simply adore this area of Italy and I feel like I have missed out by not seeing Vicenza myself. How delightful to have a little pocket full of beautiful architecture and art, wine and food just sitting there waiting to be discovered. As always, we provided a list of the places, foods and wines mentioned in this episode, as well as Elisabetta's details and the Explorer website in our comprehensive show notes at untolditaly.com/190 for episode 190. Now, we spend a lot of time on these notes so that you can relax and listen to the episode, plus it can be tricky trying to jot down Italian names when you're on the go, I'm sure you'll agree. Grazie, thanks for your ongoing support of Untold Italy. We truly appreciate all of you, our listeners, joining us from around the world. If you do have a spare moment, it would be greatly appreciated if you left us a 5-star rating and review on your favourite podcast app. That way, we can reach more Italy-loving travellers just like you and raise the profile of our wonderful guests. That's all for today. Next week, I'll be in Italy. Hooray! So we're going to share one of my favourite episodes that just happens to be super useful too. But until then, it's ciao for now.
The Untold Italy podcast is an independent production. Podcast editing, audio production and website development by Mark Hatter, production assistance and content writing by the other Katie Clark. Yes, there are two of us. For more information about Untold Italy, please visit untolditaly.com.